world? Is it June and it is time for mid-year freakout tag? Like it's relevant because I am slightly freaking out, but in more than one way. Hi everyone, it is April and today I am here to do the mid-year freakout tag. I have done this tag many times every year since I've been on YouTube, basically. In the description box below, I'll link all of the other ones that I have done over the many years I have been here and I have graced this platform. But let's get right into the questions. Question number one, what is the best book you have read in 2022? And I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but the best book I read in 2022 thus far is the first book I read in 2022, and that is A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. I loved this book so much. It is very much about the everyday woman. We follow Violet after World War I, where she has become one of the surplus women, where, you know, a lot of the men have passed away, sadly, in battle during World War I, and there are a lot of women who are single, and they're considered surplus. And so Violet is one of those people. Her fiance passed away at war, and she is alone and single and trying to live her best life in a society that still values married women over single women. And she has a job, she has a pastime that she's very interested in where she sews over at a cathedral, and she's helping to rebuild the cathedral by sewing along with other women who are mostly single. And some of the people that she meets along the way, and also the concept of being single at this time and how it could be dangerous at times. Of course, she, as she's building her own life, does run into some hiccups along the way, which include violence towards women. It was such a good book. I fell so in love with Violet. I loved her friends. I cared about her so much. There were moments in here where I was actually quite terrified for her well-being. Just one of the best books I've ever read, and I loved it. Question number two is, what is the best sequel that you've read in 2022? I used to hem and haw when I would get confronted with this question because I didn't used to read series, and now here we are and I read series now, which is very exciting. I am reading The Dublin Murder Squad by Tana French right now, and I just finished reading The Likeness. I thought this was so good. This follows our main character, Cassie, who is on the Dublin Murder Squad, kind of, and a body is discovered. And when that body is discovered, it is quite peculiar because the body looks identical to her, like quite similar to her. And what she ends up doing is going undercover and basically taking on this woman's life and trying to figure out who had any sort of motive against this woman, any issue with this woman, and trying to sort that out and learn about the woman herself. I thought this was so well done, and the parallels between the characters were so wonderful. I really liked that. So absolutely, Tana French all the way. Question number three is, what is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? And I absolutely have to say The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I really love Ruth Ware. This one is coming out in July. I just feel like she's a great mystery writer. It's cozy every time I read her. I feel happy reading her. And this follows a woman named April who is the it girl at Oxford. Unfortunately for April, she dies. She is murdered while at Oxford, and all of her friends are shocked. Now, years later, I think it's 10 years later, these friends are still friends for the most part. And the man who was accused and put behind bars for killing April dies. And it soon comes to light that he actually may have not killed her. And so our main character, Hannah, is trying to figure out what actually happened to April. And I am here for it. I want to know. It's a chunky one, I will say. I feel like it's over 400 pages. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I mean, I guess The It Girl could be considered that because it does come out in July. But this next one comes out in September. And I actually squealed when it came out of the box. I was sent this by the publisher. This is People Person by Candice Carty-Williams. She wrote Queenie, which was one of my favorite books of, I think it was 2020 that I read Queenie. And I just fell in love and I cried and I cared so much about Queenie. It was such incredible character building in that book. Unlike almost anything else I've ever read. It felt like she was real. And so, of course, I want to read her new book. This follows Dimple Pennington. She has many half siblings and they all share the same father. She doesn't really know them and she doesn't really know her father. And this book follows her creating a relationship with these people for the first time, I think. And I do believe that their father comes into the mix as well. And I need this in my life. I really do. I also love this cover. It's so pretty. Anyway, yeah, People Person all the way. Question number 5, biggest disappointment. Oh dear. I would have to say The Listener by Jordan Thanahill. This was up for the Giller, which is a Canadian prize, and I thought I was going to love it. This is about a woman who hears a sound and no one else around her, like her husband, doesn't hear the sound, and she needs to find out what the sound is, and it kind of, well, drives her a little bit crazy. And it's about her like meeting other people who also hear the sound. I finished this book because I also needed to know what the sound was. And I found it extremely frustrating because there are moments in this book where our main character, who is a teacher, a high school teacher, really crosses the line with her students. And I think that she was sexually inappropriate with her students. And she doesn't take any accountability for her actions and doesn't see it that way. And I just think it was so problematic to me. Really found that frustrating. I loved the premise of it. The concept of it is so creepy and weird and kind of fun, the concept, but how it panned out just didn't work for me at all. Question number 6 is, what was the biggest surprise that you've had for 2022? And this was Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. This book follows a woman in history who wants to fly when it is very much like looked down upon, frowned upon. Women with a lot of money were able to fly based on the men in their life. So like Amelia Earhart, that kind of thing. But women without a lot of money really struggled to be able to do their passion. I don't really like adventure stories. There's something about them that I just don't usually like. But this book was so addictive. I was rooting for our main character the entire time. It felt like you felt her suffocation by the world that she was living in and by some of the men that she was surrounded by. She was surrounded by some wonderful men as well. Her brother Jamie was absolutely wonderful in this book. I just cared so much. I was very invested. Totally took me by surprise. Definitely one of the best books I've read this year for sure. Question number 7 is new favorite author. I absolutely have a new favorite author and I've mentioned her before. That is Tracy Chevalier. So I read A Single Thread by her and I also read Falling Angels by her as well, both on audio, both incredible on audio. She takes the average woman living a somewhat average life for the time period that they're in. And she makes them so relatable, and you care for these characters so much. Falling Angels follows the right to vote and women's rights, and the women who fought for that. And I just loved both of them. And I have, oh my goodness, I have quite a few books on my shelves that are by Tracy Chevalier, and I feel so lucky that I have more to enjoy. I can't believe that it took me this long to pick her up. But here we are, and it's a wonderful blessing when you find a new author with a huge backlist that you can just enjoy. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. And now I usually don't have anyone for this. I'm not someone who usually has fictional crushes. I don't know why, but I just don't. However, I do have someone right now. I'm listening to Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason at the moment. And the main character struggles with a mental illness, and it's never named what the mental illness is. And she is in part someone that I kind of care for, but I also find her extremely infuriating. So I don't know if I could say I care for her. I sympathize with the mental illness she's experiencing, but she's not a nice person, and she is married to a man named Patrick. And Patrick is such a good person. He is such a good person. So far, I'm not finished the book, so who knows what could happen in the next few pages of the book. But right now, I am crushing on Patrick for just being an all-around good guy and being there for her through, honestly, he's taking some abuse that I just don't think is a good thing. Like, especially when someone doesn't say, I'm sorry for some of the horrible things that she says. In any case, Patrick is a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Editing April coming in just to say I finished Sorrow and Bliss. I still think Patrick is a crush of mine for the year, but I will say that I understand our main character's situation much more. I don't think I was as empathetic or as sympathetic as I probably should have been at the beginning, but as you learn more about her and her learning about her mental illness and what she actually has, I ended up caring about her so much. And some of the behavior that she exhibited, it explained a lot, even though it's not said what the actual mental illness was, like the diagnosis. I feel like after finishing it, I genuinely cared about her much more than I did while filming this video.
Question number 9, newest favorite character. So I have a character I love to hate that I want to share with you, and that is Morris in A Letter to the Sky by John Boyne. He is truly a despicable human being, but you can't stop reading this book. This follows Morris, who is an aspiring writer, and he kind of clings to writers. We meet him when he's quite young, and he clings to this older writer who kind of takes him under his wing. And he decides to take this author's past and write his own book about it. And it is very disturbing. You follow him then, and you follow him throughout his life, clinging on to new people along the way. He's someone who can't come up with stories themselves. He's a great writer, but he can't come up with the plots himself, and so he'll link himself to other people for inspiration. It's very disturbing, but I was so enthralled by him as a character, to be so self-involved and selfish and like kind of like a sociopath almost, like unbelievably cruel to other people. But this book just had me so enthralled, had me turning the pages. I didn't fall in love with Morris, let me just say that. I wanted to murder him. But it's amazing when you can read a character that pulls you in and you have such strong feelings for or against. That's amazing writing in my mind. So yeah, I'd say Morris from A Ladder to the Sky. Question number 10, book that made you cry. And I don't have any. I don't know why I haven't cried while reading this year. I usually do cry. There's usually an answer to this question, but for some reason I haven't read anything this year that has brought me to tears. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. And for me, this was Still Life by Sarah Winman. This is so beautiful. This follows a man who is a soldier in World War II, who meets someone in, I believe it was Italy. I could be wrong, but I think he meets her at a winery in Italy, and it's about that night they spend together, which is just pure like friendship. I think she's older than him, and then it's about his life back home and the people that he left back home. And this is so much about found family. It is such an uplifting book, and I definitely became very, very close to the characters. I felt protective of the characters. I definitely felt protective of a little girl that is in this book. It's just a wonderful book, and the celebration of friendship that goes beyond friendship, that friendship that becomes family. It's just such a beautiful tale, and I highly recommend reading that. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. And for me, that is definitely Beasts of a Little Land by Jua Kim. This is just such a stunning cover. Just a beautiful hardback. It was quite an expensive, probably the most expensive book I bought this year. But I feel like this is so worth it. Look at this. Like, just incredible artwork. This takes place in 1917 when a local hunter saves a young Japanese officer from an attacking tiger, and their fates are linked. You then follow Jade, who is sold by her family to a courtesan school, and it's about the people that she meets along the way. I believe she meets a boy who becomes her friend, and it sounds really, really good. I think it was Russell over at Ink and Paper blog that I learned about this book from. It's just absolutely stunning. Question number 13, what books do you want to read, need to read by the end of the year? I don't really have a ton of books that I feel like I need to read by the end of the year. I am doing a horror TBR of like books I want to read by the end of the year. I don't know if that will have gone up before this video. If it has, then I will link to that. If it hasn't, then that's probably the next video you'll be seeing from me. So yeah, I have quite a few horror books that I want to get to by the end of 2022. But that is the mid-year freakout tag, everybody. Let me know in the comments below how your reading year is going so far. I hope that you are having an amazing reading year. I really have been. I haven't read a lot of books, but the books I've read have been wonderful. So I feel very lucky for that. And I will talk with you very soon. Bye.